Welcome back to Paranormish, and if it's your first time here, welcome. Now I hope everyone had a very good Halloween, but it's time to get back on track with a cryptid video. And not just any cryptid, one of my personal favorites, the Mongolian Death Worm. And for those of you who aren't aware of this legend, here's a very quick breakdown. In the far reaches of the Gobi, people whisper of a creature between 2 and 5 feet long, some say up to 10. No eyes, no scales, just a pulsating red tube thick as a man's arm, moving beneath the dunes like a buried snake. They say it appears after summer rains or when the thunder cracks over the plains, that it kills camels, that it explodes birds mid-flight, that a single drop of its venom can stop a man's heart before he hits the ground. Local herders avoid its territory, travelers cross themselves at the mention of its name, and when something dies suddenly, livestock, a wandering dog, someone whispers, the worm. For centuries, I'm gonna butcher this name, but here we go. The Olgoi Korkoi lived as a fireside rumor. That took way too many takes, but back to it. Until the early 20th century, when Soviet adventurers began collecting the stories. Western newspapers called it the Mongolian Death Worm, and a myth became an obsession. So here's the thing about the Mongolian Death Worm. There really isn't any hard evidence to support it outside of anecdotal testimony by the people who live in the area. Yep. Unfortunately, no skin, no bodies, no droppings, no photographs, just tales from the people who call this land home. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why make a video about a monster that has so little evidence? 3 reasons. 1, it's a subterranean beast that's said to exist, and it's unknown and undiscovered. That's kind of like the whole channel. That's kind of the whole thing. 2, it's a freaking death worm. It's just so cool. I'm not saying that because I'm a huge fan of the original Tremors. It's a death worm. Of course I'm gonna make a video about it. And 3, that one's actually a secret. And we'll get into that a little bit later in the video, so please bear with me. So here's the thing. Expeditions through the late 20th and early 21st century tried to find it. Adventurers throughout the 90s, cryptozoologists in the 2000s, and even a Destination Truth crew. Love that episode, by the way. They found plenty of sand, plenty of heat, but unfortunately not a trace of the death worm. However, that could say more about the place than the actual legend. The Gobi Desert stretches over 500,000 square miles. That's almost the size of Alaska. And it's one of the emptiest places on Earth. It's not endless dunes like many believe, but a mosaic of rock, gravel plains, dry basins, and salt flats. Apparently, less than 3 million people live across its entire expanse, and they're mostly along the edges. Summer days burn at over 110 degrees. Winter nights plunge below -40. Rain may not fall for years, and when it finally does, the surface wakes for a very brief time. And then, it dies again. Every type of track vanishes very quickly. So, if a creature lived here, burrowed maybe a meter beneath the surface, surfacing only after rare storms, it wouldn't need magic to stay hidden. Just patience. And the kind of silence the desert rewards. As usual, I'll be providing both sides of the argument, so let's talk about skeptical reasoning. Skeptics point to more grounded explanations for the death worm. Explanations such as mistaken identity, harmless sand boas for one, gliding beneath the dunes, and can I just say for a second that these guys are just the most adorable snake there is. Eyes close to the top of the head so they can see prey above the sand while they stay hidden gives them just the goofiest look. They really do look like a worm, or a sausage. Other examples include venomous death adders, startling someone at dusk, desert lizards spitting mucus when cornered. These are actually very good candidates that do fit the bill. The claim is that tiny truths spread across a generation can, in theory, grow fangs. Evolution, they say, offers no blueprint for a 6-foot acid-spitting worm. And yet, evolution has surprised us before. So after reading plenty of arguments online, against the creature's existence, in my opinion, it boils down to 4 main points. Point number 1 being its body. The argument is that a worm-like body being soft or requiring moisture would not be able to survive in an environment such as the desert where water is pretty scarce. That's a good point. 2 being movement. A creature like that would probably have a very difficult time moving through the sand. 3 being its diet. Many believe that a creature of that size would need to eat a lot more than the desert could give them. Also, that's supposed to be pizza. It didn't come out like I thought it would. And 4, population. The argument being that every species requires a breeding population. So in theory, we should be seeing plenty of worms. But we don't. No droppings, no bodies, nothing. Now, remember that 3rd reason. Despite what skeptics say about why it shouldn't exist and why something like that hasn't been found, it's actually very plausible. What if I told you that the death worm could, in theory, bypass all of these issues? The death worm is actually in a very interesting place in folklore. Seeing as there is no real record or evidence outside of anecdotes, we can get pretty creative here. What I'm trying to say here is, let's build a monster. A hypothetical one, of course, but let's build a plausible monster piece by piece that still fits the legend while satisfying biology to the best of our ability. Let's have some fun. Let's imagine that the legend began with something evolutionary instead of fear, a creature sculpted by the Gobi's hazard and scarcity. Let's start with its body. Imagine a 6 to 10 foot predator, its body divided into armor-like keratinized segments, kind of like a mealworm, but not at the same time. These plates defended against sand abrasion and trap precious moisture. Now, for a creature's movement, admittedly, this one had me stuck for quite a bit. It needed to be worm-like, like earthworms in their ceti, which helped them move through the soil, but large enough to repel a creature of that size through the sand. Then, it hit me. Tremors. Bless the graboid design team. Along its sides and undersides, rows of hardened protrusions jut outward, hooked, stout, and slightly curved. They work just like giant ceti, the bristled anchors that earthworms use, but evolved for sand instead of soil. Each protrusion grips, braces, and pushes the creature forward in powerful waves of contraction. This is no longer the soft intestine from legend. This is a desert-adapted engine, flexible, armored, built to swim beneath the dunes like a living auger. Its deep iron red color matches the oxidized sands of the Gobi. It may or may not be for camouflage. It might just be coincidence. An unsettling one. Now let's move on to its senses. It has no eyes. There's no need. Its body is lined with vibration-sensitive cilia, reading the earth the way a seismograph reads tremors. A beetle scuttles, a lizard sprints, a camel shifts its weight miles away. It senses all of it. Some creatures hunt through sight, others through smell, ours hunts movement. Now, let's move on to how it hunts. When prey wanders too close, the worm erupts upward in a sudden burst, an ambush measured in milliseconds. A shower of sand, a hollow thump of muscle breaking the surface, its head, really just a reinforced wedge of muscle. It's evolved not just for tunneling, but for launching. Its mouth opens horizontally, ringed with backward hooked teeth, ensuring no escape. Its mouth snaps shut like a biological bear trap, dragging prey down before a scream can form. Messy, brutal, and efficient. Now, of course, there is more to it than just a bite. Inside the mouth sits glands of fast-acting neurotoxin. Now, it's not strong enough to kill a human on contact, but strong enough to freeze rodents, lizards, or birds in seconds. To a witness, that looks like sudden death, a bird falling mid-flap, a rodent collapsing instantly. The legend of death by touch begins to make sense. Evolution loves venom. And our death worm could use it too. Now, if our monster feels threatened, it could use a different kind of weapon. Vomit. A violent heave expels a foul, mucus-thick slurry of bile and half-digested material. It's sticky, burning, and unforgettable. Under moonlight, it could glisten like glass. It clings to clothing, it stings skin, and reeks of rot. It's possible that anyone that saw that would swear that they saw acid. And of course, fear fills in the rest. Let's move on to its habitat. During long dry months, our death worm remains more than a meter underground in a thin layer of earth where trace moisture persists. Above, the desert swings from scorching heat to bitter cold. Below, the temperature is steady. Humidity is stable. Life for our death worm is possible. Some animals adapt to live on land, some in the air. Ours thrives in silence. Now let's talk about its living routine. Rain is rare, sometimes once a year, and in some parts, once in several. But when it comes, everything changes. Insects swarm, rodents forage, the sand softens. To our worm, this isn't weather, it's a wake-up call. It rises at night when the air cools and humidity thickens. This is when sightings occur, brief, nocturnal, and after storms. This may be perfect for folklore, but it's terrible for evidence. Now, on to its diet. Our death worm is an opportunistic feeder. It eats whatever the desert allows: rodents, birds, lizards, beetles, carrion. It's not a picky eater. It also doesn't need to eat often. A slow metabolism lets it digest a meal for weeks or even months. So it's burrow, wait, strike, repeat, no mess, no trace, no proof. Let's talk about the birds and the bees, or its reproduction. So it's possible eggs wouldn't survive the heat. Also, eggs would leave evidence, and we know that we don't have that, so our death worm avoids them entirely. So instead, it gives live birth deep underground, 2 or 3 translucent young at a time. They begin in shallow burrows, feeding on insects, then learn to dive deeper. No nest, no shell, no evidence. So then, let's talk about numbers. Our worm wouldn't need thousands to persist. Hundreds would do, maybe even fewer. Each adult could occupy a territory the size of a small town, living decades, breeding rarely, almost never appearing above ground. You could walk the Gobi your entire life and never encounter one. Not because our death worm isn't there, but because it doesn't want to be found. So why do these adaptations work? If our worm existed, every adaptation would need a purpose. And interestingly enough, our design for our worm doesn't stretch biology, it echoes it. For instance, moisture retention. Desert reptiles and beetles already use waxy coatings and hardened armor. Vibration sensing. Moles, snakes, and spiders read movement through the earth as easily as we read words. Paralyzing toxin. From shrews to centipedes, evolution invents venom constantly. Its defensive vomit? Well, vultures already do that. Toads do it too. It's horrifying and disgusting, but real. Slow metabolism and solitude? Well, that's the desert's specialty. Life there moves in droughts instead of years. Piece by piece, our impossible death worm, are you enjoying those? Becomes a logical one, an evolutionary answer to scarcity and silence. Not a fantasy monster, just a perfectly adapted ghost, a whisper beneath the dunes. Now, it's possible that the death worm never existed. Maybe it's just a mirage of fear born from heat and silence and our love of scary stories. Or maybe the Gobi really does hide something, an evolutionary creature that refuses to be found. Either way, It's a phenomenal legend that persists because it fits the landscape. A creature shaped like the desert itself, silent, hostile, and patient. The wind erases tracks, bones crumble to dust, but stories? Stories always survive. And so, we keep listening and waiting for the tremor beneath our feet, because the Gobi sands have been quiet for a very long time, and silence means something's waiting. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing for future monster content. Leave a like and heck, leave your own creature theory. I'd love to read it. Now, I'm not a biologist. I'm just a guy who really loves the mystery of the unknown waiting to be found. I'm sure there are ways this creature can be improved. Honestly, by the time this goes live, I've probably already changed it a dozen times over. But, as always, I'm Josiah with Paranormish, hunting the weird and laughing through the fear, here to remind you that sometimes the scariest part of a legend is just how possible it might be. Until next time, stay curious.